Welcome to Season 2 of The Strain Podcast, a Southgate Media Group production, where we talk all about Guillermo del Toro's horror fantasy series, The Strain. We are currently covering the series' second season on FX. I'm your host, Blaire and Graves, Director of Social Media and Associate Editor from TVBinges.com, and with me today is Kyle Tremblay, the Editor-in-Chief at TVBinges.com. You can find us on Twitter at @LovesTV and at KyleLovesTV. Remember, both Kyle and Blaire have an E at the end. And you can follow this podcast Twitter handle at @TheStrainPod. Hey Kyle, how you doing today?
Oh, Blaire, I am once again set up on a rooftop ready to take my assassin's shot, and oops, I missed again.
Yes, so you're F once again.
I am once again F, who is now dressing like a cross between James Bond and Jason Bourne.
Today, you and I will be discussing Season 2, Episode 10, The Assassin, which was written by Liz Fang. Liz Fang most recently wrote Season 2, Episode 5, titled Quick and Painless, the episode in which fans of The Strain fell in love with Justine Feraldo when she had to put her nephew down, and F shaved his head, thus almost driving Wig Talk into extinction.
But it's back. It
back.
Still lives on. We're just waiting for another Abe flashback so we can have goatee Wig Talk.
Goatee Wig Talk. Or just, to Kelly to take her wig off or anything like that. There's lots of opportunities for Wig Talk.
Plenty. Wig Talk lives on now and forever.
Now and forever.
Yeah.
So how did you like The Assassin, Kyle?
I mean, it was bonkers crazy pants. It was this episode in the first 15 minutes had checked off half of our Strain bingo card and had featured plot developments that were so ludicrous that I was alone in my apartment laughing maniacally at them, at scenes that were not intended to be funny. But at the same time, featured probably some of the best action of the season and felt relevant. And this was kind of a nutso episode, and I'm still sort of reeling from it, to be honest.
Well, you and I often complain that the episodes of The Strain don't always feel like they have the urgency that they should. And I feel like despite all of the wackiness of this episode, there was certainly urgency, and it certainly was a nice change of pace, and I enjoyed the pacing.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That pacing, this is true of movies too, is that if a movie, like an action movie, has like confident, quick pacing, it almost can cover over like any problem. Like there's, things can be ridiculous plot-wise, they can feature bad acting, bad characters, but if the pacing is exactly right, then a lot of that is covered over just because you're sort of on this ride, you're on this roller coaster. And that I think is exactly what happened here, is that this episode had some really strange beats and some kind of shocking developments, and not in a good way. But overall, it flew. This episode, especially the second half, I think, really flew. And that is a nice change for The Strain, because you would think an episode like last week's would have that pacing, and yet that episode really bogged down. And this one had no such troubles.
No, The Assassin was probably, just in terms of the pacing and the engagement of the episode, is probably one of my favorite episodes of The Strain. I don't know that I agree with all the content, or I'm thrilled with all of the content of this episode, but in terms of like raw enjoyability, I thought this was one of the higher up ones.
It was, because the plot is the plot, right? The plot's been locked in for a long time now, and we're going to talk about the plot because we need to discuss Coco. But
fan fiction.
Oh, it's coming! It's inevitable. Mark it down. But this was one of the most competently produced episodes of The Strain. Like in terms of the direction, I think the dialogue was honestly like as shaky and often bad as it ever was. But like just the way this episode was like directed and edited and produced, and like just the way it got from different scenes of the episode was about as good as The Strain has ever done in that department. And that's what really carried it.
No, I would definitely agree. I think a really obvious way to describe that would also, or an obvious scene, which happens to be the first scene, which helped sort of guide the episode in that way to have that high production value, is when you watch Dutch and F hear Palmer have a conversation over the radio, and then they switch back and forth between the radio and in real life. And that's sort of like, I think that set the tone for the entire episode. And so you were in this world of really well-produced television. And we just so very rarely get that from every aspect of whether it's the monsters actually succeeding in what they're trying to do or just the subtlety of a small scene. It just like 100% all the way through. I agree with you. It was just such a well-produced episode of television.
Well, with that scene, we entered the James Bond world right there. Like we are now playing spy games. And I thought the chemistry between Dutch and F was sort of surprisingly good. Mm-hmm. I liked those two together. The fact that F is bald now and like a total playboy is actually really working to his advantage and helps in a scene with Dutch. Because there's kind of like an undertone of sexual tension, I feel like, between those two. Mm-hmm. And since F's record now is to like sleep with every woman he meets, it's there's kind of some interest going on. We've already had all this stuff with Nikki, who was unpleasantly absent from this episode, and Fett, and so like those two alone together on a rooftop, just talking about things. Like I thought that there was actually a bit of a spark there that was interesting, given what the Dutch character has been through. Not that I thought they were going to hook up or anything, but just like it was that was interesting to me, seeing those two characters together, and I really liked their dialogue and all their interaction.
No, they absolutely had amazing chemistry. Like probably some of the best chemistry on the entire show, and I don't think any of us ever knew it because they just haven't really featured those two together that often.
Right.
And it's really unfortunate because there's a chance that it may never happen again.
Yeah, this might be the beginning of the end for Dutch here.
I know. The first thing I tweeted from our at the Strain pod handle was, "Who thinks Dutch is gonna die today?"
Yeah.
She's become too likable not to die.
You're right. Well, again, I'm not putting anything. I'm sort of now at this point just taking the Strain as it comes, because our predictions have not panned out generally because we've been too ambitious with what we think the Strain is going to do. But things are certainly not looking great for Dutch.
No.
At the moment.
No.
So, yeah.
I'm a little bit afraid.
Little afraid.
You
figure Nikki has to play into this somehow, right?
If she doesn't, then these are completely incompetent writers. Because there's just so many opportunities for betrayal and turncoat and all that, and none of it has happened.
I mean, were this a show that I felt confident in predicting, what I would say is that Nikki is going to save Dutch and then die herself, which would be the sort of standard TV thing to do, right? Is that Nikki saves the day, redeems the character, and then dies, gives Dutch an emotional moment, and yada yada. Go on, like that's it. That would be the kind of stock TV move. But again, the Strain has not done any of that this year because it doesn't seem to like killing off characters. So who knows?
As evidenced by Coco and Palmer.
We gotta get to it.
Yeah.
We have to talk about this.
We have to admit defeat.
2 weeks ago. No, we've been talking about this for a lot longer than 2 weeks. Since this story started, you and I have assumed, hoped, begged that Coco was working for a higher power. That
Whether it was Feraldo or the Master or somebody or
the Ancients.
The Ancients, anybody. It could have been anybody.
Yeah,
but Coco, somebody else.
That she had an ulterior motive. That there was something else going on here. That she wasn't just an attractive 20-something blonde who fell in love with I think he is like 77 years old or something, a 77-year-old billionaire, and is now sleeping with him. And in this episode, I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed that is not the case. This is a down-the-middle story about a 20-something blonde falling in love with a 70-something millionaire. Oh,
yep.
Boy.
Yep.
Boy.
And as you started to say, 2 weeks ago, we promised our fans that we would record an episode of The Strain that is 100% fan fiction. So I guess we are going to be doing that later this week.
I think we're committed to that now.
Yeah, we agreed. We had a gentleman's agreement.
Yes, and unbreakable. I think what we agreed to was that we would record our fan fiction, and then we would watch the episode, and then we would compare our fan fiction to what actually happened.
Yes.
So that's what I think we'll do is record our fan fiction during the week, wait to release that episode, and then record a normal sort of half-sized episode and we'll put them together. So I think that's what we'll be doing.
Yeah. So everybody look out for a bonus episode of the Strain podcast this week, because we are gonna fanfic it up.
Yeah, I got to start writing. This is exciting. You're not gonna believe what I do with the Nora character.
I'm gonna have 30 pages to you tomorrow. You're not even ready.
This is gonna be horrible. Why did the Strain do this to us?
I know. I feel betrayed.
I mean, you were talking, and I sort of strongly rejected this notion, but about how if it were revealed that Coco was a plant, it would kind of redeem the story in some point. We debated about that, but whatever. But now, in retrospect, it almost makes everything worse that she's not a plant. Like, no, we shouldn't close off the possibility, right? It's still technically possible that she was working for someone.
Or working for the Master, and that's why the Master brought her back to life so willingly.
Yes. Okay. You know what? Fanfiction postponed. We now have a viable theory that is still in play.
Oh dear.
We have to postpone the fanfiction. I'm not admitting defeat.
I think our listeners are going to be really mad at us, Kyle. How about this?
Yeah.
If we get enough tweets this week by Wednesday. Wait, I don't know when this episode's going at. If we get enough tweets by Friday of this week, the week that The Assassin aired.
Yeah.
Saying that we need to do a fan fiction episode because there's no way, and I'm going to have everybody put themselves on the line somehow. I'll come up with it. But there's no way that she's not a plant. Then we will record the fan fiction episode. We will leave it up to the listeners.
We'll leave it up to the listeners. I think there's still a viable theory in play, theoretically, that she is a plant. And that would actually be kind of a delight if she was at this point. Because now we've passed the point where it's obvious that she would be a plant.
Right.
Where we've had this whole scene that now convinced us that she's not. So now it would actually be kind of clever if she was revealed to be a plant.
It would. That's true. That's fair.
We'll see.
So I had a very controversial note about this whole Palmer business.
Brace yourself.
I've mildly decided, not fully or officially, but mildly decided that I'm a little bit more accepting of that relationship than I ever thought that I would be. And it is because Palmer, he does the whole sad sack thing where he shows up at her apartment, which is portrayed to be such an awful place. And it's like, hello, that's where I live, man. And he goes to her place. And he says, all of my friends got married when they were young and they all fell in love and they all have children. And, I never had that because I was so sick. So it took me a little while to think about it. But I'm a little bit more comfortable when I think about the fact that he probably has never actually had anybody to love. And when he would have fallen in love in his 20s or 30s, which is the age approximately that Coco is, that would have been the woman perhaps that he would have fallen in love with. And he just stalled 50 years. And I still think it's pretty skeezy and I don't like watching it, but I kind of felt some empathy for him in that scene.
Did you get hit in the head like Abe? What's happened here? What has happened here? Because that scene where he goes to Coco's doorstep, where he, a billionaire, goes up 3 flights of stairs to Coco's doorstep, was so ridiculous. I mean, it's like, again, this was another instance of a Melrose Place episode breaking out in the middle of a Strain episode. It was played so down the middle, for a show about the vampire apocalypse, to have a straightforward, no subtext romantic scene between a 70-year-old and a 20-year-old is so bonkers. How do you like that?
I didn't say the word like. The word like is a very strong word.
No,
I did not like it. I accepted his affection more.
I don't accept your affection of his accepting whatever. This will not stand. This is so crazy. Okay, let's assume for a second that Coco is not a plant. that this is really as straightforward as it appears, then why is she not like 50? Like, I understand it's like his age was 20 or whatever you said. Like, no, it's not romantic. Okay, like in any other context, this would be a gold digger marrying an old man and hoping he dies. Like, that's the context that in pop culture that these relationships take place. Why else would someone marry someone 50 years older than them? 50! Like, it's not like 20, right? It's not even in the realm of like this is okay.
Wait. I didn't say I accepted her affection for him. I accepted his affection for her, and I accepted it as more realistic than just him being attracted to a random young thing. No, I saw it. I guess I empathized. I think that's probably a little bit of credit to the actor. I empathized with him in that moment when I, went, and you've seen him in the wheelchair. And so finally I feel like those flashbacks maybe had a little bit of a redeeming quality, maybe just a little bit.
No.
And so that's how I feel. I just feel, I feel like I get him a little bit better. That's all. That's how I feel.
He was such a sad sack. And him, like, throwing a temper tantrum after she got shot and be like, if the master doesn't fix her, I'm done. I'm taking my ball and I'm walking home. Like, it's like, my goodness.
No, I didn't like that part.
You met her. Well, but that's a natural outgrowth of his affection for her. Yes, like, if you're buying into this, then you're buying into the fact that he believes she's his soulmate. And, I mean, they met, like, doing, like, a land contract or something. And he, like, immediately, like, fell for her, which at the time it was like, oh, he wants to sleep with her. Okay. Like, he's turning on the charm. He's got the white, like, he's really, like, sort of feeling himself now. I get it. Like, but no, we're now being asked to accept this as the great American love story. And that, like, it really is, like, at this point, given that Fenton Dutch are no longer an item at right now, and that F and Nora are no longer together in any capacity, this is the romance of the show.
Oh no! Why did you have to make me think about it that way?
Tell me I'm wrong. What like, we've been talking about the romance of the show, how it cycled through those other two couples. Well, we've got one couple now, and it's these two, and they have had more scenes that are just pure romance scenes than every other couple on this show combined. Like in the last few weeks, there has been more straightforward romantic scenes between Palmer and Coco than every other couple combined on the strain. And that is mind-blowing. I mean, they are selling this as the show's ship. This is it right here. This is like, and it's between the villain and a blonde who was introduced, like, at some point this season, who isn't in the books, who no one really knows anything about, other than that she's apparently really attracted to old men. Like, that's the only thing we know about Coco, and that she was a model, and that her name is Coco. It's like
you just made me sick to my stomach.
Because it's horrible. This is horrible material.
It's terrible. It's truly terrible. It's truly terrible. No, I know. I'm not disagreeing that the material. All I meant was that
in that moment you believed him.
I got it.
Yeah.
Like, I understood why he was with a younger woman. He never had the young woman when he was young. So, like, that's what I got.
Right. He's a billionaire who wants a hot young woman. Great. Welcome to the club of being a billionaire. Congratulations, Palmer. Like, it's just, if it is straightforward, just make her slightly more age appropriate. That's my thing. Because I would actually, like, buy this if she was even, like, in her 40s. Like, it's just a middle-aged woman who was still like a hot, I'm not going to use the word I was going to use, but a hot middle-aged woman who,
like a Desperate Housewife type.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That kind of character who's a bit older, and it's like, then I can at least, like, sort of buy it. Mm-hmm. But she's so young, and it's just so, like, sketchy, and they're playing it so straightforward, and she is so, like, not, there's no irony to her. Like, she is such, like, the romantic lead of this show now, and the whole thing is gross.
Oh, it's skeezy and gross, and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Gross. Yeah,
gross.
I feel gross talking about it. Yeah, yeah.
We could talk about different billionaires on the Upper East Side.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Feraldo!
Justine Feraldo for President 2016!
Feraldo for Queen of Occupy Wall Street. For I mean, Feraldo don't care, man.
No.
Feraldo don't care.
No. Hashtag Feraldo don't care.
I guess she learned from Abe in terms of barging in and not caring, like, if people, like, not caring about anyone's feelings. Feraldo just turned it up to 11 and kept it there this episode.
It was fantastic.
So much fun.
It's just like, it's amazing. I guess this is like a story, not a story that was in the books, but this is the type of story that I would like to see in an apocalypse world. And so I was very excited about it. And, obviously I tweeted so much about her becoming president just because the rest of the world looks very bleak in real life. Yeah. It was just like, it is absolutely amazing to me that they actually went there, because they have so much just not gone there with the government. They have not shown us the intricacies, and it wasn't until we were even introduced to her character that it felt like anybody in there is competent. And whether or not this equates her being competent is up for question, but at least it seems like she's trying to help her people out in just this wonderful, genuine way, and she really believes in what she's doing, and she just has. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. I don't know. It's just so well done with that. Whether or not you agree with the politics of it, it's just so well done to just have that argument happen over, like, if a huge catastrophic thing happens, who has to pay for that? Because you still have to pay your workers, or you at least have to feed them. Like, where does that come from? It's such a cool moral conundrum, and it can lead to so many cool conversations. I just like that they actually included something interesting and that actually has to kind of make you think in the strain, instead of the straightforward, we're going to kill the vampires because the vampires are evil. It's like, oh, well, this is a real political conundrum. What would you do in this situation? And I just, she's just fantastic.
Well, yeah. But I think if the strain had wanted to actually make this like a real point, they wouldn't have had her be so ridiculous about it.
I know.
Like, she wouldn't have just barged in and say, I'm taking 1% of your money, deal with it, sunglasses down, walks off stage. Like, that's not how... If the strain was like actually trying to say something politically, it would have done it. It would have had her be a little more tactful, because I would have totally bought the billionaires having the same reaction had she been tactful, and then it would have been saying something about them. The way she did it was like designed to provoke them, basically.
Yes,
like it's almost hard to, like, for her just to come in and say, I'm taking, a percent of your money. It's like, well, what do you think they're going to do? Like, right. She was just trolling at that point. Right. So, I don't think it really made the political point.
Oh, no, I don't think it was, like, effective to make, like, an actual conundrum, right. But, like, at least it tried. At least it tried to go somewhere. Well,
it sacrificed that in exchange for just making Feraldo a badass, which, fine, exactly. I'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah, just give me a lot of fun with Feraldo and Kowalski. They're like hosting their own like morning radio show at this point. Like they are just Kowalski and the councilwoman just taking calls and shutting fools down. I mean, I'm just enjoying those two and their those wild kids and their adventures. By the way, speaking of shipping, I want to ship Feraldo and Kowalski. Those are the two I want to see get together.
I'm totally on board. I am in it. But no, I'm very happy that the strain actually, tried to like talk about society at all, because it's pretty much ignored society up until now. So
it really makes this commentary on the government. It's it does seem to have a lot to say about the government, but it doesn't have a lot to say about society, because we see so little of society, and what we do see is just society operating normally during the apocalypse.
Exactly. So, well, except in this week's episode, there were trash bags stacked up everywhere.
Yes.
So, we're moving towards actual functions of urban living being shut down.
Right.
So that's good.
Although the Upper East Side's still having dinner parties.
They are still having dinner parties, and the police are in full force without drawing their guns when they hear one of their other officers fire gunshots down the hall, mind you.
That seems like procedure.
Right, exactly.
That seems about right.
Hear gunshots and just look around, dumbfoundedly until something happens.
Right, no, that checks out. Yeah. We should note the contrivance of having the mayor go to Palmer to talk sense into Justine was a little bit like, in order to get him outside and Coco in a position where she could be shot. Like there was some plot machinations happening there.
Yeah, that may or may not have been the biggest stretch that's ever happened on television.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. You've
never met Justine Feraldo? Could you go and talk sense to her anyway?
Yeah, I think I undersold it. That was ludicrous.
Like, and the thing is, for a minute, I wouldn't have known. Like, for a second, I thought, oh yeah, Palmer has definitely met
Of
Feraldo.
course.
Like, that's, yeah, he can.
They go to the same. She's a councilwoman. He's a very rich, very influential person. They go to the same parties.
Yeah, no, they could have been to a couple of the same parties.
Yeah, of course.
But no, they totally don't know each other, and Palmer has to go talk sense into her, thus setting up an ability for Coco to get shot by F.
Amazing. I mean, it was just like that conversation happened because the mayor visited Palmer in person at his estranged girlfriend's house. And that just happened to be the location that F was monitoring their conversation. I mean, it was real, like, whoa, like
Yeah.
the Deus Ex Machina of that plot was off the charts, like complicated.
So yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But you know, we had to get F to shoot Coco, and you know, whatever it takes, man.
We had to.
Because he's such a bad shot.
Oh, that
At least that's a consistent character flaw at this point, that he can't like shoot a gun well, except for the one time when the assassin was coming at him. I like that, like that is a consistent with him, especially like he drinks, he can't shoot, he always gonna hit the wrong person. Yeah. All right, cool, we know this about F. He's gonna F something up every time.
Yes. I feel like Dutch should have taken that shot. Like, we already know about F's work with the gun, and it is frankly not good. Let's give someone else a try.
Yep.
Given that Dutch is the world's greatest hacker and apparently world's greatest mechanic, I like her odds.
And she knows everybody.
She knows everyone. That's true.
What was that line? My mother told me not only to have a good skill set, but to have a wide network or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, don't just know everything, know everyone.
Some real crackling strain dialogue.
I know. Hey, you know, if you haven't been networking, you should follow Dutch's advice.
Listen to Dutch.
Dutch knows what's up.
Yeah.
Except when she's stuck in a room.
She might not know for much longer, because she might not be with us much longer.
Preemptive RAP for Dutch.
Yeah.
No, I thought going to F. I thought F, despite, you know, his classic not being able to shoot and all that jazz, I feel like this was probably one of Corey Stoll's best episodes as F. Goodweather.
Well, I mean, to talk about that, we have to get to the police station vampire attack, because that was, I think, the best scene of this episode.
Yes, between his interaction with Dutch and his interaction with Palmer, and then leading to the vampire raid. Yes. Like that, it's like Corey Stoll figured out how to play this character fully, and he just went in and he did it.
Well, personally, I think he's been great since he lost the wig. I think he's been just good. This is the episode where they gave him some really good stuff to do. But, you know, both in terms, I mean, he's had some action, but like the character beats in this episode where he's talking with Dutch, and then the Palmer scene was just great, where those two were talking. I mean, it was a little bit problematic that Palmer was motivated by his supposed loss of Coco. That was kind of a bummer to me. I kind of would have liked to get those two characters together without Coco being involved. I agree. I'll take it because the scene was so good, and it. I mean, those two actors were good, and it was a really excellent. And then to top it all off, of course, he got to do the big action scene with the very conveniently sized jail cell.
Well, hey. They have stressed multiple times that those stingers are 6 feet long, so that jail cell must be exactly 7 feet long.
Hey, you know what? If there's two things I know about the strain world, it's that stingers are 6 feet long and jail cells are 7 feet long.
I know, it's fact.
It's a fact. Sorry, the master, you calculated wrong.
You should have given them longer stingers.
You know where they need to set up their new base? Alcatraz. It's no one's taking that.
No one. That's where our heroes should go. They should fly all the way to San Francisco.
Meet Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery there. They'll get you in.
Oh gosh.
It's a reference to The Rock, one of my favorite all-time movies.
Why?
You don't like The Rock?
I've never seen it. I just don't know why you brought it. But no,
because they showed Pacific Rim before the strain tonight.
You don't have to remind me.
Woo!
I turn on my TV at 8:45 thinking I'm going to eat a quick dinner before the episode, and I'm going to be happy, and it'll be Twilight again, and I don't like Twilight, but at least it's, you know, it's whatever, it's just background noise. Yeah. But then it's Pacific Rim, and I have to actively hate what I'm watching.
No, you had to put your dinner down so you could cheer the freaking end of Pacific Rim.
No.
Get him! You go, Charlie Hunnam.
Oh boy. There's
What
anything
up, Roman?
there's anything that I know about FX Network, it's that it loves Guillermo del Toro, Charlie Hunnam, and Ron Perlman.
Yep. The three kings of FX.
Yes, the kings of FX Network. But going back to F.
Yeah.
I really thought that for the first, like, F is sort of supposed to be a hardened asshole, but like not like the biggest asshole, but like a hardened guy.
Sure.
And I think that this sort of showcased that fact here. Like, he hasn't lost everything, but he's pretty close. And he goes up against Palmer, and the two of them just had freaking amazing chemistry. Like please get him in a room more often, because we don't need the bad chemistry that he has with Coco, and we don't need F's bad chemistry that he has with Zach. All we need is to get these two together, and everything will be great.
Right. Yeah, I think the problem with Palmer as a character is that he doesn't really have anyone interesting to play off of. That if he's not like talking to the master himself, and if
Icarus,
I guess, but I mean, yeah, I guess Icarus, but they're also on the same team,
right?
You know, and the master's on the same team. He has like very little direct interaction with any of our heroes, and that's a little problematic. You know, that's it just seems like when you watch a scene like that one between he and F, you wonder like what this show could be if they were more intertwined.
If they were actual like nemesis.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought. Like that scene, I think it was last week with Abe and F, where they had like a sort of catty conversation. It might have been 2 weeks ago.
It was last week.
Yeah, okay. And I just wonder, like, F is kind of underutilized in terms of talking to the various characters on this show. Like you know, when you get him with Dutch, he's great. When you get him with Palmer, he's great. Like, I feel like when he just talks to Nora all day, as often happens, and Zach, like, you're kind of caging that character and Corey Stoll's performance. Because when F is out and about and talking to new people, it's much more interesting than when he's talking to Zach or Nora.
I agree. I totally agree. And I just think that's because those are the only two characters he really interacted with all that much in season 1.
Exactly.
And we have such a strong cast of other characters that he should be making the rounds.
Yeah, right.
We're having different scene partners. But no, it was a great scene. And then, you know, Fett and Nora coming in to save the day afterward was also just a wonderful scene. I am loving Nora with a sword. I don't know about you.
Nora, very quietly and uncommented upon by the show, has turned into like an Indiana Jones, Lara Croft kind of character, where she's like a Tomb Raider now.
I know.
I don't understand. She's dressing in like long, like all black and like long trench coats, and her hair is like in a ponytail. Like, I don't know what happened to Nora. But I approve.
She's carrying the sword that is stained with the blood of her mother, and she must avenge the blood of her mother by killing as many vampires as possible.
I like that character transformation took place entirely off screen. Like there was no like moment where she just decided to do all this stuff. It just she shows up now and suddenly she's like a sword wielding like ass kicker. But okay.
I feel like early season 2, it kind of like became clear that she like started to use the sword and was less good at it, and now she's better.
I guess, but she was also babysitting Zach for most of the season.
That's fair.
So she hasn't exactly been, you know, Lara Croft here, but now she's Nora Croft. Here we go.
That's fantastic. No, she's sort of torn between these worlds of being like this super maternal figure and being this total heroine, and it's like you don't get to see that character that often in television, so I'm kind of digging it. Sure. I think that she needs to say more about the badass part and less about the maternal part.
Yes.
But I'm totally digging it. I'm all about that.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was great watching her and Fett, you know, break F out of prison.
Mia Maestro and I'm totally blanking on his name. The guy who plays Fett. Kevin Durant. Yeah, they have great chemistry.
Yeah, I like those two together. And
they're really good duo.
Well, speaking of chemistry, I think based on last week, we might be hinting at a little romance between those two. I think there was some flirtiness. Remember when she unlocked or she got the power back on, and he gave her a look. Mm-hmm. And he's had his heart broken by Dutch. She's had her heart broken by F. I'm just saying. Those two have been spurned by their previous lovers. They have great chemistry. They seem to be hanging out a lot lately. She accompanied him last week when they went to get Nikki. I'm just,
Yeah, hey.
I feel like that might be a possibility here.
I'm neither going to confirm nor deny that. So
okay.
With all my book knowledge,
Yeah,
but I think they have great chemistry, and I would like to see them in more scenes together because they rock.
Yeah, no, I like that pairing of characters.
I do too.
A lot.
And I like that they totally left Abe, who just total. I don't even know what the word is for Abe.
Abe
with him.
is doddering. Like he is just shambling around like an old man. This was the one story that I thought was neither interesting nor like crazy. And poor Abe has not had a lot to do this season, all things considered. No. And here he gets abandoned by everyone else, and he's just like sadly looking through houses and like or shuffling through books. And then he finds it, under a floorboard, of course. And then he gets bonked on the head by a mysterious figure who is left as a cliffhanger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. I totally get that. 100%. I understand. But as somebody who read these books, like, whenever they came out, what is it, 2007 or 2008 or 9 or whatever, like, sometime in that area. Like, the way that they described the Lumen in the books is so awesome, and I just wanted to see it in real life. Like, I had this image of it in my head, and then they showed it, and it was awesome. Like, I screamed. I was so happy, because I've just been wanting to see what this stupid book looks like for, like, 8 or whatever years. Like, this is real big deal for book readers, okay, Kyle?
Okay, yeah, I don't follow. It's still the Tuxedo Ramen to me.
I know, but it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It's all silver. There's silver in the ink and everything. It's so beautiful.
Well, you are clearly excited, so I better not be too hard on it. I thought it looked fine.
I don't understand why it's written in German, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's supposed to be Latin.
Oh.
Like, it's supposed to be super old.
Yeah, if it's in German, it's not that old, all things considered.
German's not a super old language.
No.
So I was a little unhappy about that. And the only reason I know that is because I read German. I don't speak it very well, but I read German pretty well.
The show is really doubling down on the German thing with, like, Iker's, like, being a Nazi again last week.
Yeah.
And establishing that F is apparently Jewish in addition to Abe. Like, there's some weird stuff going on thematically with the strain that I'm not entirely sure where it's going to go, but they're definitely putting it out there. So I guess in this universe, the Tuxedo Ramen was written in the last, few centuries.
Right.
So, okay.
Which makes me kind of sad.
I don't think the show has done a great job establishing its importance.
I don't think so either.
As evidenced by the fact that I'm still fine calling it the Tuxedo Ramen. It still, just seems like a MacGuffin, as what I say. Just like, oh, let's get it. It's like, okay. Does it have magical powers? Like, I don't know. I know they had like a little exposition scene on it a while back, and that it's a book that contains information about vampires or whatever. But it's like, oh, I don't know. The amount of screen time that we've spent on the search for it, and that we're going to continue to spend since Abe lost it immediately after getting it, seems to be not warranted by what we know about it currently.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Like, I think that it probably was very exciting for other people who've read the books. I think specifically because the symbol on the front, which is like remarkably similar to a biohazard symbol, has like a lot of importance throughout the whole book series once you get through book 2. Oh. And like, again, wanted to see what that looked like because it's only ever described. It's never drawn anywhere. So I was very excited about that. But I think that like all of that build up for me was just super exciting because I've been waiting to see what it looks like because that's just such a visual in my head. Like I want to know what they would do with it. But I do think that the show has done a remarkably poor job of making it seem like an actual thing that matters. And unfortunately, that's because the way that they've written Abe in the show, not in the books. He's not as brazen in the books. Mm-hmm. In the show, he just comes in always swinging his sword, yes. And he doesn't like have any care or affection for anybody. And they've distanced him a lot from Fett, who was like his emotional partner in the show thus far. And it makes it hard to follow a story just with him, where he finds a book randomly in the floorboards of a house, which again, not how it happens in the books. Right?
Yeah, it seemed random, and it seemed like I don't know.
It was just like. it's time and we only have access to Walder Frey, so we're gonna film this scene.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was, and that's unfortunate because it's like it's such a like it's just such a beautiful thing for me as a book reader of many years to just see it. See it physically.
This is exactly the reason why I hate comic book shows and movies, and this is The Strain doing that, which is it does a very lazy, sloppy job of describing something that it knows people who are familiar with the source material will be excited about regardless. Mm-hmm. And so it feels like that's a license to do a poor job of making it matter to people who haven't read the source material. And to me, the definition of good TV is that part of the definition is that it stands on its own, and that no television show should ever require any knowledge of the source material if it's a good show. Like if it's a dumb, campy show designed to target a specific audience, whatever. But for a show to be actually a good TV show, it can't require you to be independently excited about stuff from source material. And
right, like how Hannibal is a really easy show to watch, despite any knowledge you might have about the books or the previous movies.
Exactly. How Hannibal, based on source material, whether you've seen that source material or not, you can equally appreciate how brilliant that show is. Right. The Strain, I don't think it does a poor job with this normally. I think normally The Strain is kind of okay on this front, and probably often makes book readers more angry with its sort of treatment of book material.
Yes.
But this is a glaring example of The Strain relying on the audience having book knowledge to care about something, because honestly, like as a non-book reader, I could not possibly care less about this, and I don't understand why Abe has spent the entire season looking for something that has been so poorly established and just doesn't seem to me to be part of the main aspect of what is otherwise a story that's grounded in the modern world. You know, how The Strain portrays that world is certainly dicey, but it's a show about the modern world. This isn't Game of Thrones. You know, they're not searching for legendary artifacts. There aren't dragons. This is supposed to be the science show. You know, it's supposed to be sci-fi. You know, but it's having this like magical book or whatever is just it just feels like very much out of place to me. And so that's why I call it the Tuxedo Ramen, because I don't care about it, and I'm very dismissive of it, and I think the show has done nothing to disabuse me of that notion.
Well, I'll say, even as a book reader, I was excited to see what it looked like. Yeah. The actual story behind the Tuxedo Lumen in the books is one of my least favorite aspects of the entire book series. So, but it is something that plays an important role and is something that I wanted to visually see. But I agree with you, and that's actually an opinion that I hold. I think ironically, given this podcast, that you should be able to separate every source material, and that no book or no movie or TV show should be identical to the book that it's coming from, or whatever it is that it's coming from, because it's up to the new material to be original and exciting and make sense to its current audience, not its former audience.
Yeah,
and that's just an opinion that I've had very strongly. Specifically because I was a part of the Harry Potter generation, and everybody was like, oh, well, if you haven't read the books, then you're not a real fan. I was like, fine, I won't watch or read any of them.
right. Yeah. No, that's the worst kind of fan for everything, including Game of Thrones. But
yes, especially Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But it's just, I do think The Strain normally does a good job with that. And this Tuxedo Lumen plot is just an example of it sort of giving in to the lazy instinct that a lot of media have to rely on book knowledge in order for something to work. Exactly. So yeah, it's not working.
No, not working at all. Okay, so do you want to talk about the Strain Bingo?
Strain Bingo! Here we go. A controversial week for the Strain Bingo. Yes. Given the fluid nature of Coco's life in this episode, the literally tens of people's fates with regard to Strain Bingo hinged upon the reveal of whether Coco was alive or not, and whether she was. It actually brought up some interesting philosophical questions about the show, which is more than I thought the Strain Bingo would ever do. So, but it's the idea of whether if someone is converted into a vampire, if they're dead or not. And I ruled that they were. However, Coco was not converted into a vampire. She was given the same, as far as I'm concerned, now you correct me if I'm wrong, Blaire, she was given the white, which is the same thing that Palmer got, and Palmer is not a vampire, so it just made her sort of like immortal, I guess.
Yes, and it's the same thing that Abe does with the worms.
Yes, right. So it invigorated her, it healed her, but she is not a Strigoi. And therefore, she did not die in this episode. She was not revived. She was brought back from the brink of death. And therefore, the main character death square is not filled in for this episode, once again. And thus ruining a number of bingos.
But we did get a bingo.
We did get a bingo despite that, because this episode checked off so many boxes.
Within 15 minutes, there were like 4.
Within 15 minutes. We have to give credit to Michael C. on Twitter. His handle is at Mr. MR _CANC for getting the one and only correct bingo of this episode after many people, including our friend Super Nyan Cat, chimed in with the bingo that involved main character death. But Michael's bingo involved Coco being suspicious of Palmer, which happened at multiple points of this episode. Palmer flirting with a woman at least 4 decades younger than him happened at those same points of the episode.
Check.
The free square in the middle. Nora looking like a sad puppy, which happened later on in her conversation with, was it F or was it Fett?
It was with Fett, and it said that, if she had known, she would have told F that,
yes.
You cross a line when you take a human life.
That was it. That Nora, despite turning into Nora Croft for most of this episode, regained her form as sort of sad Nora when Fett told her that about F's plan that he knew, but she did not. And then finally, a vampire stinger magically misses a main character, which happened about 50 times in this episode. Really, in that F scene alone when he was in prison. But also with Abe, with I think Fett and Nora had some stingers flying at them. Stingers were magically missing characters left and right in this episode. So congratulations to Michael for a proper The Strain bingo.
Thank you to everybody who participated, and please tune in next week. We may even have a couple new squares for you.
Yeah, if I get around to it, we'll see.
We'll see. Don't forget, everybody, to please tweet at The Strain Pod, again, at The Strain Pod, to let us know if you want us to do the fanfic episode or not, but to justify it. We're not just going to do it.
Yeah,
not just going
at this point, I'm going to need to be convinced that Coco really is, at this point, definitely not being controlled or not working for a higher power.
Yes.
So convince me. If you really want that fan fiction episode, I know you could do it.
We'll need at least 10 convincing tweets. I'm going to put it out there. 10 convincing tweets.
We need 10 tweets. If we get 10 tweets from anybody, or from any combination of people, we will put on our writing hats.
Yes.
And get to our fan fiction.
I'll have my 30 pages delivered the next day.
Oh boy.
All right. This wraps up our 25th episode of the Strain Podcast. Before we go, I want to mention a few things. You can download and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. You can also hear all of our other podcasts at our website, southgatemediagroup.com. Please subscribe to the show and also rate us. Follow the show on Twitter at @TheStrainPod, and Kyle and I at @KyleLovesTV and @BlaireLovesTV. Remember, both Kyle and Blaire have an E at the end. You can follow us on Instagram at @TheStrainPod and on Facebook at facebook.com/The Strain Podcast. Send us fan mail at strainpodcast@gmail.com. The word "the" is in there, thestrainpodcast@gmail.com. And check out our website, tvbinges.com, to find and join in on our monthly binges or create your own. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.